a dream come true. Me and you, whoa, teach me to talk. The podcast, take two.
Hi, I'm Laura Mize, pediatric speech-language pathologist.
And I'm Macy Mize Usher, pediatric speech-language pathologist.
Thank you so much for joining us for our show. We are so excited to be doing the podcast here. Let me just say, Macy is beginning her 9th month of pregnancy.
We're also both moving right now.
So this is the most chaotic time, but of course we need to do the podcast, so we're doing it. So we're so excited about today's show, but let me talk to you about a few important things that Macy is not sure that I have mentioned yet. So if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would love for you to do that so that you can get notifications when we post a new show. And our goal is weekly, but we'll see. And then secondly, I want to talk to you and make sure that if you're a therapist, of course we want you to watch, but you can also get CE credit for these shows. And so there's a link right here in the post below here on YouTube so that you can click that, go to our website at teachmetotalk.com. Pay the little CE fee for that, and then you can get some kind of credit for this beyond just value of improving your own everyday practice. And that's the biggest thing that we want this podcast to be, is just kind of an everyday discussion of the things that we talk about in our field, and then things, again, to make our everyday practices better. So in lieu of that, today we are going to be talking about our 10 favorite toys to use with toddlers and preschoolers with language delays.
That's right.
And so we're going to kind of walk through our favorite things that we do, but I'm also going to want to talk to you about how you can write these things and how you can think about what goals that you're targeting, because sometimes we get lost between A and B with, okay, this is my goal and this is what I'm doing, but sometimes they don't really connect. So I want to talk to you about a framework that you can use to kind of keep yourself on track when you're playing and treating children. And so let's just kind of move forward with that in mind. We're going to talk about not only the toy and our favorite activities, but exactly what focuses we're going to pick from that to a look at early language development.
Yeah, and we had some differences too. So
we did. We always have differences, even though our philosophical opinions are the same most of the time. But we do have some differences with what we do with kids, because you didn't work with me for your first 5-6 years. And so
that's right.
That's fantastic, so that we have these two different perspectives.
I also view this list as 10 things I can grab quickly.
Yeah.
Because, it's just the reality that you can't plan every single session, so. Well, when, you're in a setting and you're going quick.
And I remember for a lot of years when I did home health, when I was in Indiana's First Steps program in Southern Indiana and in Kentucky, in Louisville, a lot of times when I planned, the session was driving to the next kid's house or standing at the back of my trunk, pulling out the toys and looking. And the good thing about this list that we picked too, not only can we get these activities and toys pretty easily and quickly, these are the kinds of things that families already have at home too. So they're very familiar. So we're just going to run through this. So why don't I just run through this list first, just our general list, and then we'll start to talk about our favorite activities and the goals that we target. So first of all, bubbles.
And
I think that's
a clear number one.
I think every pediatric speech language pathologist or early interventionist, DI, whatever you call teacher people in your state, we all love bubbles. Next thing would be any kind of ball toy. Barns and animals, so those farm animals. Any kind of car racetrack. And we'll talk about the different ones that we use. Any kind of key toys.
Oh, I love my key toys.
Yeah, so usually that's with a house or some kind of little, I had one for a long time that was like a little circus kind of carousel looking thing.
Anything you have to open with another object, really.
Exactly. Yeah. That tool use, and it's so important. We'll talk about why it's so important too as we're kind of moving through these. Bowling sets, which you don't use as much as I do. So we'll talk about that and talk about kind of how funny that is. And every time I bring that out, it is like a surprise, not only for the kid, but for Macy. She's like, bowling, when we've seen kids together.
Wow, okay. Third time today, sure.
So we'll talk about our favorite activities with that too. Baby dolls and accessories.
Of course.
a sink with water, but
Yeah.
we really could kind of call this water play
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you don't have to have the little sink that's the battery operated where the water really comes out. You could do this in a kid's kitchen sink. You could do it with a Rubbermaid, any kind
Right.
of plastic container.
Yes.
So, but the running water is always very fun. And then to kind of parlay off that, any kind of kitchen play.
Yes,
So
of
that
course.
could include plastic foods that you cut with a
Yep.
knife, which is always a really big hit with toddlers and preschoolers. And then lastly, we're going to talk about books.
Yeah.
We should use books.
We saved it for last.
We did,
right?
we did. And then the things that we couldn't really agree on that we didn't know if it made our top 10, but
Yeah.
playground equipment, which
Yeah.
I think when you have access to that in a clinical setting, you know, we're always going to use
For
that.
sure.
And then I love wooden puzzles, and Macy doesn't use wooden puzzles as much as
Yeah.
I do either. So,
But I loved the swing. I loved the swing. I
Yeah.
know that's under playground equipment, but in
Yeah.
my head, they kind of are a little bit different.
okay, well, we'll talk about that as we go. So let's get started with this big list and first talk about bubbles.
Yes, bubbles is our number one.
Okay, so here's why I like bubbles. I think you can work on all kinds of language goals with that. Now, if you want to think about a framework, an easy framework with this that I taught for years that I think about all the time is still social skills. So can I get this kid connected with me?
Yes.
And we also now as kind of a more advanced framework with that, think about co-regulation. And
Yeah.
so sensory wise, is this going to be something good that I can use to keep that kid regulated?
Yeah.
Keep him moving, or bump
Yes.
up that arousal level, or
Yeah.
bring it down. And so you can certainly, I play loud with almost every toy that I play with.
Yeah.
But there are some kids that again you're not necessarily, you want to bring that arousal level down, so you can do a lot of quiet things. I whisper when I
Wow,
play
see,
bubbles
that's
a lot.
interesting because instinctively I think of bubbles as a quiet toy, of
Isn't
a
that
way
funny?
to bring down. But you're thinking of it more as a higher arousal toy to bring a kid up.
You could certainly do it like that, but you know what I think about arousal too is sometimes you're going to do different things, even with the same kid. And so
Yeah.
if a kid is really kind of wild and
Yeah.
sensory seeking,
Yeah.
really hyper aroused, really again huge energy level, you meet them where they are first, and then you kind of back it down, because when you try to go in with a kid that's so active and so
Yeah.
again, his arousal level is just kind of off the charts there. When you try to meet them with something that's too quiet, you can't, there's a mismatch there. And
Yeah.
so I think that you can use bubbles either way, like that.
Yeah. I view bubbles as great for those visual kids.
Yeah.
Because bubbles are so visual, right? And they're so
Right.
kind of, they're very predictable because you do the same routine. You pull that bubble stick out, you
Right.
blow it. And that's what's great about, visually predictable.
Yeah.
But also, the different kind of, how they're kind of like rainbow-like. I
Yeah.
feel like visually or big or little, that's very appealing for them. The other reason I like bubbles is because, well, one, bubbles are almost always my first toy I play with a kid too on evaluation day. They come in, they're not ready for that POS or whatever test I'm doing. I'm
Right.
pulling out those bubbles, and almost every kid has been exposed to bubbles.
Right.
But I also appreciate how you can use bubbles across the different cognition ranges.
Right.
You can, bubbles are usually one of the first toys
Right.
if a child has very low cognition. But,
Right.
even adults like to play bubbles,
Exactly.
right?
So it's so versatile and
versatile.
all purpose. And so I was talking about kind of that framework. So socially,
Yeah.
we can get a kid engaged with us. And the big thing here is he going to participate? Is he going to be with me as we do
Yes.
this together? And then the next kind of little rung that we can look at would be receptive language.
Yeah.
So how can he follow directions? And when I think about receptive language, sometimes I kind of pair that comprehension and that copy. Those are things that we've got to get kids doing before we actually hear a lot of words, or even kind of communicative gestures, is getting that imitation piece in there with copying and comprehending with receptive language. So we can do a lot of, especially teaching with that, even if we're not, we're not compliance based, so we're not looking at, he has to do A, B, C, D, all these little commands in a row, but still that participation piece, that after we get that going,
Yeah.
we really want to look at comprehension, how well is he
Mhm.
understanding here, plus that copying or that imitation piece. And I think we can get a lot of different kinds of imitation with bubbles
Yes.
too.
I think bubbles, as compared to everything else on the list, it is a high number of repetition that you can have as well.
Exactly.
A fun way to engage. And
Exactly.
again, not that compliance, but it's a naturally fun toy to play with.
Yeah.
Also, they're so cheap. I mean,
Yeah.
I just have to say that right now. Bubbles are just so darn cheap.
Exactly, and you can find them
Mhm.
nearly anywhere. And like we said, families, even if they don't have bubbles, it's something that mom ends up getting within the
Yes.
first week or two because
Yes.
she noticed what a great response
Yes.
that a child had with that.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about this imitation piece a little bit with
Yeah.
bubbles. And I
Mhm.
think, we think about imitating verbally, but before kids can imitate verbally, they have to do some nonverbal imitation.
Exactly.
So we usually start with actions, with objects, with that.
Mhm.
So what are some actions we can get a kid to do with bubbles? I stepped on the word there.
Pop.
Pop. There we go. To pop it. And,
Mhm.
you can certainly do that with different ways. I
Yeah.
like to have kids pow the bubbles,
Yes.
and that's kind of where
Mhm.
I start with the kid, who's,
Mhm.
again, he's really active, and I need to kind of bring that arousal
Yes.
level down, but you want to kind of meet them up there where they are with that
Yeah.
high activity level. So powing the bubbles.
Yeah, that's a fun way.
Yeah, Henry says pew all the time for, that's their
I
shooting.
was about to say, that's what you taught my child to do. He loves to pow and punch those bubbles,
Uh-huh.
but naturally there's so many expansive other verbs
Yeah.
to use as well. Stomp, that's my favorite, or
Yeah.
jump on the bubbles.
Yeah,
Mhm.
clap the bubbles. I think that's real fun. But
Yeah.
just even to work with a kid on isolating that index
Definitely.
finger. And so if you have a kid that's not
Mhm.
pointing, and pointing is something you want to do, first that kind of that open hand point. I think we talked about in
Mhm.
one of the two previous shows that we've done with
Mhm.
how those gestures kind of emerge with
Yeah.
all those things. And so even when a kid is just reaching for the bubble at the beginning, and then we kind of naturally
Yeah.
move toward shape that with
Yeah.
that isolated
Mhm.
index finger. And so kids can certainly do that too.
Mhm.
And you can look at kind of that motor piece. So I think it's a great
Yes.
toy. So we've talked about social, what we can do with that, and we've talked about with copying and comprehending. And again with comprehension, we're just working on what the usually whatever action that's going to be. And so we talked about the pow and the clapping and stuff, kicking the bubbles. That's
Yeah.
another thing that I think about. And so understanding action words is a big focus that I do.
Yes.
Excuse
Which
me,
moves us
bubbles.
right on to our next toy, balls, of course.
Okay. We did not talk about, let's talk about one or two more things about bubbles. I'm sorry.
It's been 15 minutes of bubbles, Mom.
Okay, sorry. Let me say a couple more things, okay?
I do want to say the cool way to play with bubbles is to add dish soap, right? And so then they don't pop as well, so you can kind of bounce them off of your hand. Have you done that before? You probably haven't done that before.
That's a great idea.
You're a little bit more type A than I am. I know bubbles kind of freak out some of those type A therapists as well because they could be so messy.
And I ruined that mom's couch a long time ago when those no pop, those bubbles that are supposed to last a long time, and she had gotten a brand new couch.
Oh no, that would terrify me.
I don't even think they make those bubbles anymore. But anyway, I digress. Let me say a couple more things. I think another reason bubbles are such a good first toy for us is because we're targeting bilabials.
You're so right.
Yeah. And so if we're looking at expressive language, or
Yes.
even looking at, some early phonological patterns with kids, and they maybe don't have initial consonants.
Yeah.
And so bubble, pop, more. And again, you've got those
Yes.
really visual cues right there with that. And kids are already looking at your lips because you're blowing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great toy, even for kids, that we move on and think about language, or even that early artic.
Yeah. And you know what? I know this might freak you out that I'm about to say this, but bubbles are so great to use in feeding therapy too. I know you don't do a lot of feeding, but
After I decided I
it's a
wanted to
great-
Teach Me to Talk, I
of course.
just referred all
Of
the feeding
course.
kids away.
But it's a great warm up,
Yeah.
as well.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. All right, is that all we want to say about bubbles? Any other thing that you
There's
can-
just lots of ways to play with bubbles. Mixing it, bubble guns,
Yeah.
bubble triggers.
Yeah, those great bubble machines.
Big bubbles,
Yeah.
little
and-
bubbles.
Yeah, and so if you have a kid that likes bubbles, think about how you can vary that. How you can move that along and do some always think about, I want to take that interest because that's his strength. He spent a lot of time with that, and then expand it. So there might be other, again, options for looking at different kind of bubble toys. And they're so cheap, and so readily available. So great idea. All right. Now I feel like we've wrapped up bubbles. Now we can move on. So next on our list, let's talk about ball toys.
Yeah, we like that one.
Yeah.
And it's actually the number one toy recommended for 1-year-olds, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That is, and ball is usually one included in that, most frequent top 10 word list as well.
Exactly.
Ball.
Exactly. So I like just any kind of ball. I like beach balls. Macy's not as fond of beach balls. I think the reason beach balls work so great in early sessions, one, any child who's one or kind of at that developmental level who's kind of a new walker, one of their favorite things to do is to hold a ball and walk.
Yeah,
and
it stabilizes them.
Yeah, and so you can get a lot of, sometimes we feel like when a kid is hyper-focused on walking that we're not going to hear as many words or as many word attempts or even vocalization. So I think it's a great way to kind of those kids to meet them where they are new walkers.
Yes.
And lots of times we see that in early intervention, the kids that we're working with. So great toy to use for that. I like, my favorite kind of ball is that flat ball.
Yes.
And I've talked about it forever if you've watched any of my other previous courses, but it's always in the Nerf toys section, like at Target or Walmart. It's called a flat ball, PHLAT. You push it down and then the ball pops up. Yeah. I've seen it kind of rebranded as a magic ball. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's on like a Facebook. I know you do Instagram a lot more than I do. It's like me and the old ladies are, looking at the ads on Facebook with the magic ball.
At least you didn't say the Facebook.
That's right. Okay, so but with that, the flat ball is a great toy, but it scares some kids.
It does.
Yeah, we had a little boy this summer that was petrified of that, and Henry didn't love the flat ball.
Yeah, my son did not love that flat ball either. Well, there is a lot of anticipation.
Yeah. Is it going to pop? When is it pop?
Yeah.
I think
but that's so great for a verbal routine, right?
Yeah.
We do a lot of, push, and then we go wait, pop. Yep, exactly. Or of course, ready, set.
Yeah.
Go when it pops too.
I do body parts a lot with that ball too. Are we going to push it with our hand? Can we push it with our finger? Can we do it with our elbow? Can we do it with our knee? Can we do it with our foot?
Yes.
And so that's a lot of fun with that toy. And I do think for our kids that we've talked about that we have to include movement as a regular part of their session, meaning that we're going to move, sit, move, sit, move, sit. Balls are great for that because they're naturally give a kid a reason to go get the ball. And then lots of opportunities to build joint attention there. So
Definitely.
That you're both, you're both tracking the ball when it moves away from you. You're, maybe playing catch or maybe rolling. I think rolling a ball back and forth is hard sometimes to get a kid to do. So I do kicking back and forth.
Is great.
Instead.
Balls are also great because it's a natural way to work on two objects together. You can pair a ball with almost anything. Like you're shooting the ball into the basketball hoop, or you're rolling it down, the wedge or a pillow on a couch.
Right.
Or, a plastic tube or a paper towel tube. It's a great way to kind of work on that. I think also, just like bubbles, balls are a great, you can use it across different cognition ranges or the different levels of imitation as well.
Exactly. One of my favorite ball toys is a ball and hammer toy.
Yes.
And I have often said if I could only take 2 toys and only had 2 speech therapy toys, it would be a ball and hammer toy and bubbles, like we just talked about. And so I love that because, again, we're doing tool use with that, and that typically comes in 17, 18 months in typical development. So nearly all the kids that we would see on our caseload are going to be right there developmentally. Yes. And it's such an important thing, too, with, even with balls, teaching cause and effect.
Yes.
Teaching object permanence.
Yes.
Teaching problem solving, because invariably the ball is going to roll under the couch or behind the chair or somehow there's going to be a little problem to solve with that. Yeah. And you talked about with using it with other things, pairing it with other things. So
a related command.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So you've hit your comprehension there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good primer for 2-word phrases too.
Absolutely.
Because ball is such a great anchor word and such
Right.
a high frequency word,
And easy to say.
Yeah.
Bah, as you know.
It's another
Yeah.
bilabial.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So great ideas there for balls. And I always, when I have a kid that likes balls, I try to think, I'm not just going to play one ball toy
Right.
during a session.
Mhm.
And if you've taken our strengths-based course, you know that one of the things that you want to do is use that interest and use that skill over and over and over, and you can build a whole session around that. So when you have a kid that likes balls, don't just think about, okay, I'm going to play this one ball toy at the beginning to get it going.
Yeah.
Think about, you know, can I have 5 or 6 different
Definitely.
activities? And then that's even better for expressive language. And even, again, I don't like to talk about artic, and I've already talked about it twice, but you do have lots of repetitions with that.
You do.
Yeah, so great idea there to get yourself lots of different ball toys, or talk to mom about that. And again, balls are something that almost every family has.
Yes.
And you can do different things with smaller balls. A lot of times I show moms how to put it in, you know, an Amazon box, you know, or even cut out a little circle for that. Or if they have a plastic, you know, anything in the kitchen that we're kind of, you know, if it's a home that doesn't have a lot of resources, then we're looking at things that we can help mom learn how to do. That's, you know, adapting a ball, like with a Pringles can, you know, cut an X in that lid, and the kid can push the ball through.
For sure.
And then he wants to do it over and over and over again. So our kids that we're building attention with and building joint attention, great options for balls.
Okay, so let us know how you play with bubbles and balls. But number 3, are you ready for number 3?
I'm ready for
Am I going too quick?
No.
Barns and animals. Now, not every therapist will agree. And I think a funny point to talk about is that since we're from Kentucky, when we were going through this list, we realized, or maybe you already knew this, I'm just shocked that not every early interventionist will be playing with a barn.
We talked about that. Yeah.
Kentucky is just so naturally rural. Even in the restaurant that we were in, when we were discussing this list.
Josie's in Lexington, if you're a Kentucky person too.
But there's pigs on the walls, there's horses on the walls. You know, what else did we see?
A cow.
And it was a great point to realize regionally, you know, there may be other types of animals that come, you know, may naturally come first, not just farm animals. So I know not every therapist will agree that the barn and animals is such a great toy, but I like barn and animals because it's always there's always a silo included, and so right,
okay,
a silo, or in the new Fisher Price barn, you can open up that top window, and you can make those animals fall on down. That is just such a you know, hiding animals. That's a great way to work on.
And so that's that in and out kind of play scheme.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
And so many toddlers love that, you know, forever.
Yeah.
So you can use that for a long, long time. So that's great. I like farm animals with this because of that natural target that we're going to get there with early imitation with play sounds.
Yes.
So animal sounds are great with that. And lots of, so you've got built in lots of opportunities there to teach a child how to imitate, and not just words. You know, again, we have to start at those easier, earlier vocalizations. So those sounds are great. And then those early sounds that we do with actions that little animals do.
Yeah.
So
jumping
or walking, you know, and I love it when a kid, your horsey sound, that's a great one. Or even when a kid starts doing walk, 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 walk for walk, 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 walk. Anything like that. And I mean, you can work, I mean, your possibilities with that kind of toy are really endless, because you can work on socially. First, you want them, again, doing what you're doing. You're connecting with that. Receptive language, we're going to work on them understanding and following some, you know, where's the pig? Oh my goodness, I have the baby pig. Baby pig wants mommy. Where's the mommy pig? You know, and again, you're building all of that into just kind of your natural play routine, so that it's not about, again, that compliance-based kind of therapy, but where you're really, really looking at what that kid understands within the context of play. And that's a good thing to talk to moms about too, especially when children are, again, mom may not really have connected that receptive language
Right.
issues are a big part of her child's
Yes.
not talking yet. Every parent kind of gets the expressive language part because they don't hear many words, but sometimes they haven't backed it up to think, oh my goodness, he's not really following directions.
Right.
And so it's a great kind of way to talk about that and talk with moms about how it can be really play-based.
Yes.
Where you're, playing with all those farm animals together.
I love working receptively. So I go and I hide the animals.
Yeah.
And then I sing, where, oh, where's the pig? And that's how we find. I mean, I do that almost every time I play with a barn.
Yeah.
Little friend that's working on that kind of goal.
Yeah.
It's just, it's fun for me. Yeah.
You can do early word combinations.
Yes.
Things that I do with kind of barn play too. And you know what you were talking about before, that different cognitive level where a kid is.
Yeah.
And so when you have a kid at the beginning, who again may not even be really interested in learning cow, pig, dog, whatever, even just using those little games, and I think we talked about this on one of our earlier shows, is just like setting up that row of animals, and maybe again that pow, knocking them down, having them fall off a table or falling off the slide or whatever you're kind of using right there. That builds that attention. So even if a kid's not really interested per se in that, he likes that visual kind of piece of that, and he likes looking at you while you're doing that and saying those animal sounds as part of your routine. Yeah. That's, again, you can use this for a long time, or for a big continuum range.
Definitely. And then the higher, more, advanced of that beginning pretend play as well. Making the animals eat, making them sleep, making them drink, making them sneeze.
Fly, run, hide, climb. You can target a lot of new action words and verbs. So you can do a lot of prepositions with a barn too. So, in, out, up, down, on, off. Yes. That's our kind of standard 6. If you haven't thought about that before, kind of commit that to memory, because those, when we learn, when we learn developmental frameworks, they really do help, even while you're sitting there with the kid and you're thinking, what else can we do with this? We're on minute 29 of the barn here. What are some new things I can do with this? He's not quite ready to give it up yet. But what are some things that I can do? And certainly things that we talk to moms about, really specific goal-wise with that.
We also mentioned that barns, the animals specifically, are so easy to use in a sensory box. Oh. Yeah, so that's such a great way to, again, combine two things together. You have like a box of corn or beans or rice or even water, and then add, making them walk over to the barn or something like that.
I think that's a great idea. And, we've talked about a lot on the show. Sometimes kids can't combine words yet because they can't combine ideas yet, and they can't sequence kind of two things together. So that's a great early way to do that.
That tackles the tactile kids too, because we've talked a lot about physical kids, some about visual kids, some of these tactile kids. Also, this might freak you out too. I like to use dry erase markers on barn animals. If you're not watching, if you're just listening to us, Mom's shaking her head. But it's such a fun way to...
Macy lets kids draw on everything, not Laura. I'm like, where's the paper? We need some paper. Or a chalkboard or a dry erase board. Okay.
But no, that is such a fun way to make the animals messy. Is to get a brown dry erase marker and to let that child draw all over that animal, and then you can wash it off in a sensory bin or with a wipe. But that's a big winner.
Yeah, I think that's great.
That's a good routine I use with barns.
I think that's great.
Barn is bilabial. But you wouldn't really say, I don't know, there's just so many other language targets I would use before I taught barn.
But if they like it and they have an initial B, it's an easy, it's another word. So yeah, I and they're not going to get that, R there. But, I think it's great. I think it's a great early word. I probably use that more than you do. Yeah.
Okay, so in our therapy bag, we have bubbles, balls, barn, or any really type of animals.
Yeah, let me say one other thing about that. The vehicles, I combine vehicles with the farm animals all the time, with trucks and tractors, and that's another way to kind of get Yeah, yeah. Get those early kinds of sounds going.
For sure.
All right. So our next one, are you ready to move on? It is that vehicle piece. So it's cars. So any kind of cars there. And we probably should have said vehicles because certainly our trained kids kind of fall in this category. True. And it's about as versatile as little farm animals or anything like that because families have it. Families usually, will have some kind of car toy. So great one with that. My all-time favorite car toy is that Fisher-Price trolley ramp. I don't even think they offer a current version of that, but occasionally
you can look on eBay though.
Or Goodwill or any place like that. So that's a good one to get. And I have 3 or 4 of those that I've just kind of hoarded over the years. But any kind of little racetrack that is easy to operate. I have a new Cars one right now that's kind of a figure 8. You know that one that my grandbabies have been playing with. It's under my bed.
Yeah, that's a great one. The zigzag one that goes naturally down like this.
Oh, there's a Melissa and Doug one. Yeah, and I think there's probably off-brands of that too. The ramp that the car can go down. The Fisher-Price Garage is a very versatile kind of car toy, and some parents, that might be a bigger toy that a kid might get for Christmas or something like that. But those are great things with that. And I think, like we talked about with that continuum of teaching a child how to copy or how to imitate, you can certainly get those actions with objects going, and that's easy at the beginning because, naturally a kid's going to want to push the car, crash the cars, drive the cars up the wall, so if you're working socially with a kid and you really want them to connect with you, driving a car down your leg or up your arm, or like you talked about last time, I think I hide cars under kids' shirts all the time, to kind of, and again, get that back and forth, that social piece going.
Yeah, cars are so versatile. You could play really anywhere. You could play on the floor. You can play going up a wall.
Right.
You could play falling off of tables or couches.
Right. You can play cars in the bathtub. You can play. It's a great outside toy too to use outside. So good ideas there. I think your natural target with that too are going to be those, like I said, those early play sounds. And so when you pair that play sound with those early movements and pairing a motor movement with a sound, naturally during play, we think about that, but a lot of times parents don't really understand that your target for that play activity isn't necessarily the word car or go, although it could be, but it might just be, the raspberry, like you were blowing earlier, the car sound, or, any kind of crashing noise, or, but just so versatile with all the things that you can work out, and, all the different, we kind of walk through we've said that the earliest framework, the simplest one that we think about, a kid's social skills, his receptive language skills, expressive language skills, and then kind of that artic piece. But you can also look at this with those 7 C's that we talked about in our strengths-based autism course. So co-regulation. If a kid is a kid that is kind of has been all over the place, but he likes cars, a lot of times that's a natural way to help him co-regulate because it does bring his activity level down. He's down on the floor now instead of running kind of all over the place. And we move from co-regulation to connection. So how can we use this little activity to get that social piece, get that reciprocity piece where we're working on that back and forth interaction. So great toy for that. Kids who don't often let you join them in play, that parallel play piece where you're taking the same thing and you're doing the same thing with your car as they're doing with their car.
Using 2 different objects instead of just one car. It's naturally you have 2 cars. That's good. Boy.
And then conveying is that next C. So that's really, we think about that intentionality piece.
Yes.
So how is the kid able to use gestures? How is he able to do nonverbal communication there so that you know what he wants? So certainly, you can teach a lot of that intentional pointing and looking and all those things that we target with conveying. The comprehension piece, so following directions. What does he understand in the context of play? If you're saying to him, "Oh, let's make the car go under the table. Let's get over under the table," and you're introducing that and you're anticipating that, but you don't necessarily do that first, and you see how well he's following
for sure. That's
that
a great
direction with that. Copying is your next C. So will he imitate some things? And I, make cars still fly and jump and do all those
for sure.
normal kinds of early action kind of there. And then the last two C's, just to be consistent here so that you know what we're talking about, communicating simple ideas and then communicating complex ideas. So that's kind of that framework if you wanted a kind of a more complex, those 7 pieces of early language development. So we can certainly, any other things you want to say about cars under
You can pair it
under
with so many, under, you know, simple and complex ideas. You could pair it with higher level pretend play schemes. So you could do like a car wash. The car can go get gas.
Yeah. Can fix the car.
Yeah, fix the car.
Use the car to take people somewhere else. So you kind of introduce that next little thing. That's so true. Yeah. Yeah. So big variation there with car toys. And certainly, you know, like we said, our trained kids are included with that, with it, or any other kind of vehicle that they would like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, our trained kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The next one, key toys.
Take it away, Macy.
Key toys. Well, kids are just, it's such a great toy because kids naturally, especially in this early intervention range, they have to ask for your help, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, you're trying to put the key in. That's a little bit complex, and then of course you have to turn it too. So it's just such a great natural joint attention type building type of toy.
I love it. And with keys, toys with the houses, and we didn't talk about this with the barn, but one thing that I do is knock on the door to have them, you know, even after they've used the key. So that's that next little action that they can imitate with that, and then opening the door. I like to do matching with kids that love, that are so visual, that love key toys. You know, you can match the color to the door, and that's how
so
they
true.
decide that they're going to open the door. I have a little more advanced house with keys. It's a Melissa and Doug, and so it has a little, excuse me, little metal keys, and they have numbers on them.
Yes.
So matching that to
that toy has a great doorbell too.
Oh, it does.
On each door. That's very fun.
If you have the batteries in it. Yeah. And it's not 15 years old. Yeah. Still works. Yeah, but that's a great one too. But you really look for toys with keys, even older toys. So if you are a consignment shopper, or some of those crazy big sales that lots of cities have, you know, we have that big one here in Lexington. Look for older toys that have those keys too, because I think that is kind of an attention getter, because it's just novel enough and just hard enough to really entice the kid to want to participate when he might not naturally want to do it.
And you can just hide just about anything within, you know, the little house kind of key toys. Yeah,
you can have all kinds of little plastic animals, people. I've put, for kids who, I don't use a lot of pictures with kids who are not super visual, but kids who have been interested in that, they've had a favorite set of flashcards that they love, that they, you know, wag around all the time. I've hidden those in there. So, or even your older kids that you're hard to kind of keep them with you. You know, they're almost 3. You've seen them for a year and a half, and they know all your tricks. Yeah. You know, to kind of bump them up a little bit, you can certainly, you know, even do some different things with that.
I'm thinking of co-treating, because I use key toys a lot, which my OTs, that was so fun. They would just love it when I would use
of course they would.
Toy, right? But also you can pair this so naturally within like an obstacle course. So you could go try to find the key, then they have to, you know, walk down the wedge, then they sit, do the house. There's so much natural break. You know, you're getting that movement piece, but you're also, you know, you probably are sitting or standing, and it's just a natural little break.
That's good. And it's real gold.
My pregnant brain's kind of jumping in with that. But
no, I think that's a great idea. And I think that it's real goal oriented. So once they get the keys, they're going to naturally want to go to the house. And so that is a way to kind of get him to go through the tunnel, or, you know, that other, however you're going to extend that. I think you said a wedge, but I can certainly see even just putting it on the other side of the room and running across the room and opening that, and, you know, whatever you could do with that. I'm sorry, I still have that on my Ring doorbell.
Okay, so and within our therapy bag, we've talked about bubbles, balls, barns, cars, key toys. It's on your list now.
Okay, now let's talk about bowling.
Okay, I'll let you go ahead with this one, bowling.
I like little bowling sets because it's movement is naturally included with that.
Yes.
And then there's a there's a goal with
There's
it.
a goal.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
so it's more than one step, and so it's not just rolling the ball across the room. You're going
Yeah.
to roll the ball to knock down the bowling pins.
Yeah.
And so you can target that again. Am I going to have to give this to you to turn off? Target that again with what was I saying? I lost my point.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, with bowling, yes, I know what I was going to say. You can target, okay, I've got to get the pins set up, and then the kid has to get the ball and roll it. A lot of times they're not even going to do that. They're just going to want to kick the pins down, but that still leaves just so much for you to do with that.
Yes.
A lot of our visual kids are color kids, so
Yeah.
usually the bowling pins are different colors, and so if you have gotten to the point where you're doing, or let's just talk about our GLPs, our Gestalt language processors or Gestalt language learners here with that. You can do lots and lots of, set it up, knock it down, roll the ball. So lots of opportunities to model great Gestalts. And then we haven't, I don't think we talked about this yet on the show, and I think we talked about it in the strengths course where I use a lot of anchor words with our Gestalts. You're not just looking at what little phrases that they're going to pull their own little scripts out of their preferred media, but you can use these as you're moving them along through those stages. You can use little anchor words, and so again, you might take a phrase like time to, so time to bowl, time to roll, time to kick, time to
Definitely.
Time to set it up, and use that little time to as your anchor through that.
So good.
And that's how we move a lot of GLPs into that little next stage of language learning where they can, this is that mix and match stage where they're changing that last little word. There with bowling. You can also do, just some early scripts there with ready, set, go. And so our kids who are 1, 2, 3, or any of those early little verbal routines that you are working with a kid. And again, maybe not necessarily the Gestalt language learners, but kids who are at that level of imitation. They're not quite at single words yet. But if you give them enough context, like with ready, set, go, 1, 2, 3, again, it's the same kind of theory when you think about with Gestalt language learners.
I was just thinking about the kids that bowling has been most successful with, my apraxic kids. And I think it's because there's that movement piece, and we know apraxic kids really need that movement piece to get that language coming out too. And then there's so many high repetitions, every time, down, 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 and then, okay, let's make them go up, up, up. I'm talking about the pins here, right? Up, 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 up. And so that has been the most successful with my apraxic kids as well.
I know. We did that a lot with a little boy last summer that we saw.
Yeah.
And it just, again, it might not make your top 10 list, but it's...
I think you're convincing me it's on my top 10.
I know. When I'm hearing you talk about it now, I'm like, wow, she really did like that. I really have made a believer out of her with that. All right. Anything else you want to say with bowling?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but you can do just tons of variability. I like that as kind of a social routine too. Yeah. So it's easy to involve a sibling or a peer.
That's what I was going to say. Such an easy early game for peers. Yeah. Bringing in peer play.
Yeah, and so if you see kids in a daycare and suddenly you're responsible for the whole class once you walk in, that's been a great activity for me to do with kids too. And make sure that the kid that you're seeing gets more turns than everybody else. You can kind of navigate that and do that. And I think it's a great early peer thing too, with having kids give the ball to another child. And then it kind of lapses into another game where we just all sit in a circle and then pass the ball around.
Yeah, that's a great...
So even if, again, you kind of use it as your launching point, I think it's a great tool and a great tool.
Have you seen those pins too that you blow up?
No.
So if you're limited space within a toy bag, going into a daycare or something, you can just do 3. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can deflate them. You can inflate them. Yeah.
Oh, great idea. Yeah. I've never seen those. Yeah, I get the dollar store kind.
Yeah.
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 And I have one that I've had a big net, a set that came in a big net. I've had that for 20 years.
Yeah, I've very successful with my large bowling sets.
Yeah.
at
know
the
what you're
place I
talking
used to work at. I mean, they were very large. That was fun.
about.
Yeah. Mhm.
Kids like that. Very cool.
Okay, bubbles, balls, barns, cars, key toys,
Bowling.
bowling.
And now we're to babies. How about that? All those bilabials. Okay, baby dolls.
Babies.
Again, so versatile.
Yeah, there's so much you can work on with babies.
Okay.
This is just self-explanatory. At
Yeah,
this
but
point.
let's talk about the earliest things you can do with babies, because you think about baby dolls as a natural early pretend thing that
Yes.
kids can do, but some kids aren't quite there yet. So
Right.
what can you do with that? I do a lot of imitating actions with the baby.
Yes.
So kissing the baby, patting the baby, and do a lot of verbal routines when you're doing this.
Yes.
You know, let's give kisses. You know, do your little three
Yes.
there, or pat, pat, pat when you're patting the baby.
Definitely.
Or hug, you know, and
Rock the baby.
rock,
and you can
rock,
even
rock.
babies are such a great toy to pair songs with.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Tickle the baby.
Wash the baby.
Yeah, I was gonna say, some therapists might not like this, but I have kids throw the baby up all the time.
Well, when I was saying rock the baby, I actually love to sing rock my baby in the treetop when the wind blows, you know, blah, 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 and make the baby fall. And although that may not be appropriate, those kids love that.
They love it. And then the baby has to cry. And then
Yeah.
you have to pick the baby up and give the baby a kiss.
And then pat.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're so expansive.
Yeah, so expansive, especially with your kids that are not really, once they start really, really playing, they kind of leave you out. So that's an early thing to get them to do, to stay with you and to imitate those earlier things like that. Okay, so that's kind of early. When you move kids on through that next kind of rung of play skills, that more functional play, and so that's when you're adding another object with it. So get yourself some accessories. So I like to have a bottle.
Yes.
And a blanket. Let's talk about this one thing. I was going to say it and I lost my train of
Okay.
thought. The night-night routine is so fun to play with babies too.
Yes.
And you sequence those steps where, you know, you might start out just patting the baby and I turn the baby over, and, you know, it ends up more like beat the baby, but, you know, kids will imitate that. But then you backward chain that. So that's the end of the routine. But before you put the baby down, you know, maybe you wrap the baby in a blanket, or maybe you're just kissing the baby, or maybe, you know, whatever. But you do the whole little routine where you develop it, you know, where you do something with the baby here, kiss it, whatever. Let's put the baby to sleep. And so, you know, you put your finger to your lips for the shh.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're patting the baby and you say pat, pat, pat. And then you say night, night. And then you do the wake up part.
Yeah.
So you do the 1, 2, 3, wake up.
Yes.
And kids love that.
Yeah. Haven't you had kids too that are naturally, they don't like objects or toys? And so you could start that routine, you know, you yourself is the toy, the object, you are sleeping. You're doing that whole thing, and then like the next session you bring in the baby to do it.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Great way to do it. And I've had mom pretend to be the sleeping part of that,
Yes.
you know, too, where mom lays down and we pat mom, and, you know, we do wake up game where mom wakes up and does that. So super, super versatile game. Versatile game. All right, let's go on to that next little, you know, I kind of backtracked a little bit. That next little thing where we're talking about accessories with babies and all the things we do with that. So a hairbrush is a good thing to have.
A bowl with a spoon, and you can stir to feed the baby.
Exactly. Putting socks on a baby doll,
Yes.
on and off. Kids have loved to do that with me.
I've done dry erase markers on babies too. Is that going to shock you? But then to wash the baby, right? That's a great routine. Oh no, baby's messy. Now we have to wash the baby.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that. That'll be good. A hat with a baby doll is a good idea. And then you can have the baby sneeze the hat off, or you put the baby hat, pretend hat. We always do this with Mr. Potato Head hats, but, you know, anything like that where you're, you know, sneezing, and then you have the baby sneeze, and that's a lot of fun thing. I do Band-Aids with baby dolls.
Band-Aids, yes.
Yeah, kids love that. That's a lot of fun. I introduce water play with the baby doll, so giving the baby a bath.
Yes.
You can get those even at cheap dollar stores like Dollar General, which, you know, every small town in Kentucky has a Dollar General, and one on the way to the small town. But even you can find even little cute baby doll accessories there. And there's I used to buy a bathtub at Dollar General that the water came out the little shower
sure.
thing or the little shower holder. And it may, it may not last 2 or 3 years, but you're certainly going to get your money's worth out of something like that. A lot of fun with that.
Body parts, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
But even kissing the body parts too, not just identifying them.
And Band-Aids on the body parts. That's where I've had a lot of luck. So kids, say they're over 2 and we're still kind of working on that comprehension piece with that, putting a Band-Aid on that or washing it with the wipe. And I could say maybe drawing with the dry eraser and on the body part, Yeah, that would be a good idea, especially for kids who, again, aren't really interested in kind of that more traditional way to work on that. That would be a great way to work on that. Yeah. What other ideas with baby dolls?
Maybe, you naturally kind of have like a bag with a baby doll. So if they're, about to run up, let's pull out the bag to see what's next for the baby. It's a great way to add that one more time drill kind of. Following direction type of thing.
I think that's great. And another thing I do with baby dolls, I always do this, is if we've had a lot of accessories for cleaning up, give those directions for cleaning up. Let's clean up. What are we going to clean up? Let's clean up brush. And so, they have to find the brush. Let's clean up the shoes. Let's clean up the, so that's a great way to kind of work that in and have that be a little bit more functional.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm good with babies.
I think so. Let's keep this moving. Next, sync with water. And so again, we've talked about with water play, just how engaging, and I say that a lot. If you are in a session and you've run out of things to do and the kid is running all over the place, go to the sink. Use that natural kind of opportunity. It's probably right there anyway, especially if you're doing home visits. A little harder in the clinic to do unless you're taking them to the restroom. But great way to introduce that. The toy that we love right now that I've had a lot of different versions of would be a sink that has batteries that the water comes out. Kids that we can hardly get to engage in anything else. Play-wise will love that.
They love that sink.
Yeah. And so you can do it again with improvising. If you don't have that, just going to the child's regular sink. And then you've talked a lot about today combining that with, you can wash the dishes, you can wash the baby, you can wash cars, you can wash any other kind of little toy, that they would want to do with that.
Yeah, prepositions on and off, the water on, off, turn on, turn off.
Right.
You could combine soap within the water to wash.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. And so think about if you have these kinds of things that you're going to use with lots of different kids, go ahead and get yourself a little script that you can kind of use. And you do that naturally anyway as the therapist. But think about that. Include some gestalts there so that you kind of think about that, and again, you said turn it on, turn it off, whatever else that might be with that. Yeah. Okay. Kitchen play is our next extension with that. And I love plastic food. And I already mentioned when we were going through the list, the sets that have the Velcro so that you can match those and then cut them with a knife. And then I usually do pair this. You have some kind of kitchen there or pair it with the sink that runs water or that little microwave toy that I've had forever.
Oh, yeah.
That spins. And so the kids can push the buttons on there and watch the food spin. Then you take it out. And you can develop a nice kind of beginning, middle, and end play routine that you repeat. We're going to pick the food. Then we're going to cut the food. Then we're going to cook the food and watch the food. And then you can, pretend to eat it yourself or with a kid or with a baby doll or mom or whatever. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. My most favorite kids to play, kitchen play with is kids I'm working on, those early pronouns. So these are mine, yours.
Yeah.
And it's such a they have that visual cue, like this one's my plate, this one's your plate. You know what I mean?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Or kids who may have trouble, not that we should be working on sharing, but kids that, naturally want to hog all the toys.
Right.
Well, in eating, you typically have 2 plates. And so that's easier for them to visually see that. Yeah.
And I think that you can do a lot with this with all different ranges, and all different cognitive levels. So with our earliest kids, even if they're not quite ready for the whole, sequential, pick the food, cut the food, cook the food, I have gotten lost in that sequence. So you can just cut the food and then pretend to eat the
Mm-hmm.
food. And then that, just given that turn taking that, and I have had kids take a lot of turns of that, shoving that food in my
Yes.
face or mom's
Yes.
face that wouldn't naturally engage
Mhm.
with another person.
Yeah.
So great
Yeah.
way to kind of target that too.
Yeah, you could target yummy or yucky.
Yeah, and
being
so
yucky,
sounds.
like bleh, that kind of. That's
Yeah.
really successful. Yeah.
Or
Mhm,
that
yeah,
eating
yummy.
sound.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
great idea with that. All right. Books, our last kind of thing with books. Books are great. You should use a lot of books. I, however, don't always use a lot of books.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite things to do with books, of
Mhm.
course, we're going to read the book and have a kid, sit with us while we're doing that to do. But I like to match
Yeah.
toys with the pictures in the books. And so
Yeah.
I have a set that I developed for this years ago. So just get yourself a great picture book and then go through your toys, put all of those in a Ziploc bag, and then boom, you've got an activity for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So great way to kind of do that. And I've taught a lot of moms how to do that. And it's just a great way to keep kids' attention and make it just that next little language step up.
For sure.
We have a lot of kids who kind of stem on books.
Yeah.
Because they just want to sit and flip the pages, and parents, will say, oh, she loves books. But then you look, and they're really using that kind of as a visual stem.
Yes.
But it's a starting point.
It is the starting point.
Yeah, and they've given you that idea that that's what they like. So
Yeah.
certainly a great thing with that. I love the new little speech therapy imitation book, Stephanie Anderson.
Those are so great.
So great. She sent me the first one that she did and said, look at this. This is you're building steps for verbal imitation here. And so she's got some great directions with that. So they're on Amazon. We'll try to link those here.
For sure.
And she's got a new one with, her second one was with action. So you can imitate the actions. So
those are so good.
great books with that. Other ways to adapt books.
Velcro.
Yeah, we're going
Pairing
to talk about that.
with pictures. You print off the picture from the book. You use it in your copy machine, whatever. Then you laminate the picture and you put a piece of Velcro on the back, and then you stick it on the picture in the book. So that's a great way to slow down kids when they're those natural flippers. It's because you're peeling off each piece, and maybe you're only peeling it at first, but the next time you're putting it in a bag or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And kids who love books, who are naturally into books, and I've certainly had a lot of kids like that, sometimes you think, oh my goodness, I want you to play with toys. Pick the toys that are in the book and then use that book as kind of a segue to play. You can do that opposite, with kids who really love playing with a certain kind of toy.
Yeah.
That's a great way to introduce books for kids who aren't naturally kind of drawn to that. But books are so important. I mean, gosh, there's all kinds of research that talks about that, that's such a natural predictor for language skills. And certainly, we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, I think, with a study about reading and how that was kind of,
find that source real quick.
yeah, the most, the biggest connection there with how many books that a kid had read. And just that, again, just that later, I think it's a link to academic success. I don't necessarily remember what we were talking about with that. But that books are fantastic. I like repetitive books. And so certainly you can get kids to kind of fill in the blank. Did you find it?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, it says kids that are exposed to at least 100 books perform 1.5 years ahead in school. So if this source is from Evans in 2010, it doesn't say first name or anything. It just says Evans 2010. But we naturally think, our kids with language disorders, language delays, they're already naturally behind. So this is talking about, neurotypical kids. So we really should be pushing the books.
Yeah, exactly. And lots of times moms don't know how to use books if their kids don't naturally like books.
Yeah.
And we're strengths-based. So I would say for those kids, well, do some other things and kind of segue back to those books.
Yeah.
But so many times it's just you modeling for mom that you're not reading every word on the page.
Right.
When you're talking about how to label the pictures, and certainly we think about working on expressive language with talking with a book, but actually books are better for receptive language than I think even for expressive.
Yeah.
And so really helping a kid make those connections with words.
Yeah.
And then just sit with you, and even doing things like kissing the baby in the book, or knocking on the door in the book, or tickling the cat in the book.
Yes.
All of those little early actions and those early comprehension things can be targeted so well with books.
There's such a great for an AAC kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For
Because
sure.
it's such a structured activity. You kind of know what's going to be said next. A lot of times with books, too, especially in my early days, I would write Post-its on what I was going to target on each page. So it's a very structured activity for maybe early therapist or beginning therapist as well.
And I've done that for moms, and I bet you have too, where you've written some little notes and they've kind of, focused on what you're teaching. A while ago, I did a whole series on books, and I'll try to link those shows there. And I mean, boy, we teased out some goals. I stretched that out for like 3 or 4 shows. Well, looking at just the hierarchy there, because it's so, so important.
For sure.
And so you might get some new ideas in that series if you haven't watched that before. Okay, anything else with books that you want to talk about?
No.
Okay, and we'll have those links of those books there. All right, let's talk about in this last few minutes here. You talk about swings and the things, and then we'll talk about playground equipment.
Yes. So the place I previously worked at was a daycare, a preschool, and an outpatient center, and so naturally, schedules just lined up, or maybe you're working in a school, right? And you have to see the kid at recess. I don't know if that. Anyway,
I would want to see a kid at recess.
Well, that's right. But I guess now I'm thinking of, regulation-wise, you may not be allowed to. But I love seeing kids on the playground.
I do too. I do too. And I think you can do tons of stuff with that. And,
Yeah.
And so swinging, I love slides. I think slides are probably my favorite piece of playground equipment. And I think we talked about on a show or two ago how often we use slides just with our visual kids, like with sliding a toy down.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the kid doing that, but using that as kind of your hook in play with kids. So sliding a ball down it or whatever toys that you're using too. I love playground equipment because I do think it's a natural opportunity for kids to regulate.
Yes,
and they usually,
that's so important.
Yeah, and they usually want to do it with you. They're excited about it. And I think giving teachers, especially like in a daycare setting, some ideas they can do language-wise.
That's exactly.
And just little routines that you develop with that. And just the
They're easy too.
Yeah. But we do have some kids that we think about, I can't get them to stay with a play activity, or I can't get them to repeat, stay with it for more than one little turn. Well, with playground equipment like a slide, you're working on that where they have to sequence those things. They have to climb up the slide, then they have to sit down, put their legs around, then slide down, and then run back around to do it again.
Yes.
And so many times there's another friend there, so then you've got to wait on the other friend, and just all of those little routines that you can do with that.
I think it's such a natural way for a child to look at your face too, going down a slide or on a swing. I'm thinking of like a Lycra Velcro swing. That might not be outside on the playground, but it falls within playground equipment, so it's just a natural way to build that joint attention too.
Yeah, I think it's great. And again, the regulation piece, there's just no better way to do that than with using little playground equipment. In our new office here, we have a little indoor kind of little jungle gym, and it's got the slide on it and the swing. And then some climbing things. So just some different opportunities, different ways for kids to move their body. And then you've got different things to think about and talk about. And you can certainly get some scripts with that and verbal routines that you say the same thing at the same time over and over and over and over. And that is so valuable for building language.
Yes.
And so for a kid to fill in the blank, when you're doing up, and you pause there for them to fill in that, fifth or sixth up as you're saying that, or just even ready, set, go, or 1, 2, 3, or any kind of little normal verbal routine with that.
I've had a lot of kids who I realized. Let me back up. So I had this sweet little autistic girl, and we were trying to figure out how to even help her get regulated. And so there were many sessions that the OT and we just spent on the swing the entire time. And yes, that was so much fun. But she actually, she started imitating Ready, Set, Go only when I would pull back the swing. Isn't that interesting? So like a movement cue would elicit her language.
That's amazing. That's great. Yeah.
So you think of, movement.
Yeah.
Movement cues. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll see a kid that's really, really flat. And again, you think, oh, great, I don't have to chase this kid for an hour. but they're also quiet
Yeah.
when they're so flat. And so the
Mhm.
playground equipment there really kind of will increase that arousal level
Definitely.
and get them in that kind of just right zone so that they're really ready
Yeah.
then at that point. All right, last one, and let's wrap this up. Let's talk about wooden puzzles. I wonder why you don't like them as much as I do, because I use them all the time. But I think that's another thing that you can have a great continuum at the beginning. Don't necessarily think about getting kids to put the pieces in the puzzle. Have them take them out.
Yeah, that's a great way.
I think that deconstruction thing is a great thing to do. And if you have a little plastic bowl or any kind of container
Yes.
there to put the piece in.
Sensory box.
Yes, I think that's a great way to get kids involved, and maybe kids who don't play with toys, you know, that's a great way to do it. Maybe they're a visual kid and they just wanted to do books, but usually visual kids love puzzles too, so great way to do that. I have kids imitate a lot of actions with puzzles, so kissing the puzzle piece, banging the puzzle pieces together, holding the puzzle pieces up and shaking them, hiding them behind your head, hiding them in your clothes. It's a great relay game too, so that if you have a puzzle on one side of the room and your pieces on the other side, you know, you're going to have the kid run over, get a piece, come back and put it in the puzzle. You can certainly use a puzzle as part of the obstacle courses.
Yes, an obstacle course, following directions within that.
Yeah, I think when I've had kids who needed to move a lot, you know, you can throw the puzzle pieces into the tunnel and have a kid go get them and bring them back to you, or take it out the other side. And that's a great way to do it too. I slide puzzle pieces down the slide. That's another way to use those. And again, don't just think about the expressive piece, but think about all these other things that you can do with them too. We've talked about imitation. We've talked about comprehension with that, you know, and you can bump that up, you know, which, you know, not just with animal sounds, which one says moo, which one flies, you know, lots of higher level kind of things like that. So I think you can get a lot of bang from your, for your buck from those wooden puzzles, and I think a lot of parents have those at home too.
Yeah, I like the puzzles that make the noise when you put the piece in.
Yeah.
And those are...
Yeah, so for our auditory kids.
Yeah, for our auditory kids.
Yeah, and anytime you have a kid that's a scripter, he's an auditory kid.
That's
so
right.
think about what other ways that you can pull that natural interest in. Now, we talk a lot about that in our strengths-based course. So if you have not taken that course yet, I'm going to link it here below. Please check that out, because I think it is a way to really shift your philosophy and move from kind of that deficits focus where you're begging kids to do stuff, and then, you know, it just becomes kind of that tug of war, and you think about behavior and all those terrible things. But then when you switch your philosophy and think, what does this kid love? What is he good at? You know, it really can change the whole dynamic for a kid that you think about has been a big challenge for you, or it's harder. So think about that strengths-based course if you have not taken it. All right, so I think those were our 10 toys
that we would include in our therapy bags.
Right, and so I
for
hope that
almost any kid.
Those are toys that are available in lots of homes too. We want to hear your ideas, though. If there's any toy that we missed is kind of your go-to toy, and you're thinking, I can't believe that they didn't talk about that, let us know. We'd love to talk about it. Maybe have a future show with all the ideas that we get back from other people who include, you know, have a different list of kind of top 10 toys.
Yes, so you can email us at laura@teachmetotalk.com or macy@teachmetotalk.com. You could comment right here on the YouTube video. Or on social media, you can message us too.
Yeah, we would love that. We would love that. All right.
Or if there was a way that you played with the toy that we didn't mention, I would love to hear those ideas.
Oh, me too. So send us your best ideas. We'd love to hear those. All right. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us here at our podcast. I'm Laura Mize, pediatric speech-language pathologist.
And I'm Macy Mize Usher, pediatric speech-language pathologist.
And we hope you'll join us next time here at Teach Me to Talk, Take 2.